She used to light up when you texted. Now, she barely notices. But here's the twist. Maybe losing her attention is the best thing that ever happened to you. Because here's the truth. Most men feel powerless when a woman starts pulling away. They overthink, they chase harder, and somewhere along the way, they lose themselves. You start questioning your worth, wondering what went wrong, and all the while, your energy drained. But Stoic men? They play a different game. They don't chase. They choose. While others spiral in emotion, you return to center. Calm, clear, grounded. Most men seek attention, but Stoic men, they command respect without a word. So here's the real question. Are you reacting or are you rising? Are you being ruled by emotion or led by principle? Because this channel isn't for the average man. It's for the man becoming unshakable. The one who walks away, not out of pride, but out of self-mastery. And when you stop needing her approval, she notices. The world notices. But most importantly, you notice yourself again. That's when everything shifts. So if you're ready to reclaim your peace, your presence, your power, start this journey now. Click subscribe and step into your higher self. Let me know in the comments below. Have you ever felt your energy was being wasted on someone who didn't value it? Drop a 1 if you've been there. Drop a 2 if you're walking away now with purpose, and stay right here, because in the next few minutes you'll learn why silence can be louder than anything you ever said. Part 1. Understanding the nature of attention. First, let's take a moment to truly understand the nature of attention. Attention is like currency, precious and deeply valuable in every kind of relationship, whether it's friendship, romance, or just simple human connection. The one who controls their attention holds real power. When you lose interest in someone, it doesn't mean you're weak. No, not at all. It means you're returning to yourself, reclaiming your time, your energy, and most importantly, your peace of mind. Society often tells us to chase people, to prove ourselves, to do whatever it takes to get someone's attention. But Stoicism teaches us something very different. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." And that's not just about money, it's about emotional peace too. When you stop chasing others, you cut the invisible strings that tie you to needing outside validation. You stop needing someone else to tell you you're enough. And that's when you become truly free. When you lose interest, the silence you leave behind, it often speaks louder than your presence ever did. People might start to wonder, why don't you care anymore? What changed? But don't get it twisted. This isn't about manipulating someone to come back. This is about choosing you, choosing peace, choosing growth. When you stop pouring all your energy into others, you start pouring it back into yourself. That's when a deep, solid sense of self-worth begins to form. Losing interest doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger, calmer, clearer. This isn't about being cold. It's not about being petty. It's about letting go. It's the moment you step back onto your own path and realize your energy is valuable, and not everyone deserves it. If this speaks to your soul, leave a comment. I control what's worth my energy. And always remember, your energy is limited. It should only go where it truly matters. Part 2. The initial shock. When a woman realizes you no longer care, her first reaction is often confusion. It's like the rules of the game have suddenly changed. She starts asking herself, what's going on? Why isn't he chasing me anymore? Why isn't his energy wrapped around me like before? And that is the moment the power dynamic begins to shift. Most people are used to receiving attention consistently, effortlessly. But when that attention disappears, it creates a void. And humans, we hate that feeling. This is where psychology and Stoicism begin to overlap. In psychology, people often crave what they no longer have. So when you lose interest, it triggers something inside them. A fear of loss, a fear of confusion, a fear of no longer being in control. They want that attention back, not always out of love, but out of fear. But here's the Stoic truth. A man doesn't withdraw his attention out of anger or to manipulate. He does it from a place of inner peace. You're not reacting to her behavior, you're responding to your own values. You're choosing emotional balance over chasing temporary validation. She might tell herself you're just busy, distracted, or playing some kind of game. But deep down, she knows something has genuinely changed. And your absence? It forces her to reflect on what your presence really meant, and that is where the real impact lies. Stoics live by one powerful truth. Focus only on what you can control. Your attention, your energy, your peace, that's your domain. How others react, that's on them. You don't pull back to spark a reaction. You pull back to reclaim your peace. If this principle speaks to your journey, leave a comment. I'm not bound by external validation. Because your value. It doesn't come from someone else recognizing it. It comes from how you see yourself. Part 3. The chase begins. When you stop chasing someone, something powerful begins to unfold. The roles shift. What once felt certain suddenly becomes elusive. Predictable patterns broken, and in that space, something changes. The moment she senses you pulling away, her instincts kick in. The chase begins, and this isn't just psychology. It's human nature. We crave what's slipping away. At first, she may act unbothered, as if your absence means nothing. But inside, questions begin to stir. Why isn't he reaching out anymore? Did I misread him? Have I really lost him? That curiosity, it quietly turns into desire. And the more your energy stays with you, the more she feels that pull. Now, she begins to chase, to win back what she believes she's lost. Your attention. But this is where Stoic thinking keeps you grounded. You don't flinch, you don't waver, and you don't play the game, because you no longer need it to feel valuable. You understand what Marcus Aurelius once wrote. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The chase? It's not proof of your worth. It's simply a sign that the dynamic has shifted. Because you've chosen peace over validation, you're no longer playing by the old rules. The ones that told you to give endlessly just to be accepted. You've leveled up, rooted not in pride but in inner strength. Not because you're cold, but because you're confident. You don't need to chase to feel worthy. Your worth is already within you, and it's that calm, quiet confidence, that unshakable self-control, that's truly magnetic. If this speaks to you, leave a comment. Still waters run deep. Because real power, it doesn't come from chasing desperately. It comes from calm, grounded inner confidence. Part 4. Your resolve will be tested once she senses you pulling away and starts to chase. A new phase begins. She tests you. This is where it gets interesting, and where you need to be rock solid. She wants to know, is your distance real or just a tactic? She watches closely. Are you truly calm and confident, or just pretending to pull her back in? These tests, they're not always malicious. Often they're just instinct, an unconscious reaction to losing control of something. She once believed she had in her hands. Maybe she reappears casually, likes a post, sends a random message, drops a comment that feels just intentional enough to catch your attention. Other times, she's more direct. You've changed. Why are you being distant? But beneath those words, what she's really asking is, do I still have influence over him? Am I still on his mind? And this is where many men stumble. They see it as an opening, a chance to reconnect, to feel validated, to prove they still care. But the Stoic man knows better. He doesn't fall for it, because he understands these tests, they're not about him. They're about her way of trying to reclaim something she's lost. Your attention. And in this moment, you remember the wisdom of Epictetus. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So you respond with calm clarity. No panic, no need to explain yourself, no chasing, because your inner peace isn't shaken by outside noise. You're not reacting from impulse. You're not moved by someone trying to tug on your focus. And that steadiness, it leads to one of two things. Either she becomes more curious or more disappointed, but either way, you remain grounded, unmoved, unshaken, like a man who knows exactly who he is. That's real strength, not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. If you're walking this path of inner steadiness, drop a comment. I'm steady like a rock. And always remember this. True power lies in standing firm, even when the storm rolls in. Part 5. The balance between mystery and confidence. One of the most attractive things that happens when you stop chasing someone is this. You become mysterious. When you're no longer pouring your attention into them, no longer trying to please, to impress, or to win them over, you become less predictable, less obvious, and suddenly you become someone worth wondering about, because we're naturally drawn to what we don't fully understand. The harder something is to grasp, the more it captivates us. But here's the truth. Mystery alone isn't what sets you apart. What truly makes you magnetic is the quiet confidence that flows with it. The Stoic man doesn't pull away out of fear. He doesn't retreat to punish or to manipulate. He steps back because he knows his worth. He has nothing to prove, nothing to chase. As Marcus Aurelius once said, don't go on discussing what a good person should be, just be one. You don't have to speak much, because your energy, your presence, your way of living speaks volumes. And when you find that balance, that sweet spot between mystery and confidence, she starts to wonder, what's he thinking? Why isn't he reacting like the others? What's changed in him? The more questions she has, the more focused she becomes on you. You're no longer the one trying to understand her. Now, she's the one trying to understand you. But remember this. This isn't a game. This isn't some manipulation trick. You're not pretending to be mysterious just to get attention. Real mystery comes from living with purpose, from growing yourself quietly, from focusing on what actually matters. And real confidence? It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It's the calm assurance of knowing who you are and not needing anyone to validate it. When you bring those two forces together, authentic mystery and genuine confidence, you stop being the one chasing attention and you become the one others are drawn to explore. And that is true power. In a world where everyone is trying so hard to be seen, If this resonates with where you are right now, leave a comment. Quiet confidence speaks volumes. And always remember, real strength doesn't come from noise. It comes from calm, from steadiness, from knowing who you are and never needing to prove it. Part 6. The emotional reflection. This ... is the part most people overlook. When you lose interest and begin to pull back, it doesn't just surprise her, it forces her to face herself. Your absence creates a space, and in that space, there's no one left to blame, no distractions, no noise, just her and her own thoughts. At first, she might feel confused, maybe even a little disappointed. Why did he change? Did I do something to make him stop caring? But as time passes, those surface-level emotions begin to fade, and what replaces them is self-reflection. Deeper questions rise to the surface. Did I take his presence for granted? Was I too focused on myself to see what he brought into my life? And right there, right in that quiet moment of truth, the psychological principle of scarcity increases value begins to take effect. Because when something becomes rare, we start to see it more clearly. We start to appreciate it. When you step back, you send a strong, silent message. I'm not dependent on you. My energy is not infinite. That message? It forces her to reevaluate everything, and in that process, your value becomes undeniably clear. But here's what matters most. You didn't do this to manipulate. You didn't pull back to get a reaction. You did it for one reason: self-respect, inner peace. Because Stoic philosophy teaches one vital truth: other people's thoughts, feelings, and reactions, they are not your responsibility. You can't control that. You were never meant to. What you can control is how you respond, how you live, and how you treat yourself. You stepped away, not to be noticed, but to stay centered, to honor your own worth. If she realizes something in your absence, that's her journey, not your mission. Because the beauty of this moment is simple. You're living by a core Stoic principle. Focus only on what you can control and release what you cannot. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You already know who you are. If this part hits home, leave a comment. I am the prize. And always remember this: you are valuable, not because of how others see you, but because of how you treat yourself. Part 7. The power of emotional independence. Emotional independence. It's one of the rarest and most powerful forms of strength. And here's the truth. It doesn't come from isolation. It comes from something far deeper. It comes from no longer needing validation from others to feel whole. When you stop clinging to attention, when you stop depending on outside approval, you step into your most powerful state. A place where no one, not a person, not a moment, not a word, can easily shake your foundation. You're not cold, you're not distant, you've simply built something solid within yourself. As philosopher Seneca once said, the wise man is content with what he has, no matter how little. This doesn't mean you reject emotion. It doesn't mean you run from relationships. It means you approach them from wholeness, not from lack. You don't need someone to fill a void, because you've already filled it with growth, with clarity and self-awareness. And when she realizes that, everything shifts. Emotional independence is magnetic. Why? Because it's rare. Most people are caught in the same cycle, chasing attention, chasing recognition, chasing worth from outside. But not you. You're more than just a man. You're a man of discipline, of inner strength, and unshakable self-control. And that independence, it forces her to see you differently. Maybe she once thought you'd always be there, always available, always chasing, always trying. But now, she sees something else. A man who respects himself enough not to depend on anyone's approval. And that doesn't demand respect, it earns it. Not through control, but through the quiet power of self-worth and self-mastery. Always remember, this isn't about creating distance to manipulate. It's about living by Stoic principles. That happiness comes from within, not from anyone else. You've realized a powerful truth. The only thing you truly own is how you respond to the world. If this speaks to something inside you, drop this in the comments. I thrive in my independence. And remind yourself daily, real power is building a life that feels strong, fulfilling, and peaceful. On your own terms. Part 8. Why you should embrace detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you're cold. It doesn't mean you don't care. It simply means this: you're finally in control of yourself. When you choose detachment, you make a powerful statement. My happiness, my peace, and my purpose are not tied to anyone else. That's a radical shift, because most people, they live in a constant whirlwind, tangled in emotions, drowning in expectations, and chasing validation from the outside. But you've chosen freedom. So why should you embrace detachment? Because it sets you free. Free from the emotional chaos that comes from needing to be liked, seen, or constantly reassured. Free from the pressure of trying to meet everyone else's idea of who you should be. It's the path of Stoicism, where you focus only on what you can control. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. And once you truly understand this, that's when your real strength begins to surface. You stop letting the external world dictate your internal peace. You reclaim full ownership of your thoughts, your actions, your energy. With detachment, you no longer react out of impulse. You respond with clarity, with calm, with intention. And that calm presence, it commands respect. Because it shows that you're not driven by fleeting emotions. You're led by principles, by self-mastery. But here's the key. Detachment doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It means you enter relationships from a place of fullness, not desperation. You don't need to cling. You're not afraid to lose, because you already have everything you need within yourself. And this way of living, it doesn't just make you more attractive to others. It makes you feel more whole, more fulfilled, more at peace every single day. Just remember, detachment isn't a one-time move. It's a practice, a discipline, a way of being that you nurture daily. When you stay focused on your goals, your growth, and your inner peace, you naturally begin to let go of what no longer serves you and hold tight to what truly matters. If this resonates with you, leave a comment. I am worth the investment. And always remember this: the energy you give to yourself will always pay the greatest return. Part 9. Why detachment inspires respect. When you live with true detachment, something powerful begins to happen. You don't just attract attention, you attract respect. And in today's world, that's rare. Respect shows up when people realize this about you. You live life on your own terms. You're not clingy. You're not chasing anyone just to feel seen. You don't need external approval to feel worthy. That kind of emotional independence is uncommon, and because it's uncommon, people can't help but admire it. Your detachment sends a clear, silent message. You possess inner strength. You can thrive with or without someone in your life. You've built a rich, full inner world, one that doesn't rely on anyone else to complete it. You enter relationships not from fear, but from a genuine desire to connect. And even more importantly, respect also comes from your boundaries. When you practice wise detachment, you're saying, without needing to say it, I value myself enough not to accept anything that disrupts my peace or purpose. Those boundaries, they don't push the right people away. In fact, they attract them closer. People who respect you are drawn to your calm, grounded presence. And those looking to take advantage, they quickly realize they can't cross the lines you've clearly drawn. But here's the deepest truth of all. Respect begins with you. When you live with detachment, you're learning to respect your time, respect your energy, respect your emotions. You're declaring, through action, that your peace is a priority and that your life is not defined by the moods, opinions, or behavior of others. Attention fades. Respect lasts, especially self-respect, because it's built on something unshakable, your character, your values. If this reflects where you are on your journey, leave a comment. Respect begins with self-respect. And always remember, the way you respect yourself sets the tone for how the world treats you. Part 10. The Stoic Approach to Relationships. When you lose interest in someone, it's not about playing mind games. It's not about reverse psychology or trying to make them chase you. It's about reclaiming ownership of yourself. You begin to realize your peace, your focus, and your energy are incredibly valuable. And when you're no longer driven by the need for attention or validation, you unlock something deeper, something stronger: freedom. The Stoic approach to relationships is simple, but deeply powerful. Focus only on what you can control. You can't control how others feel. You can't control whether they value your presence or whether they choose to stay. But you can control how you show up, how you respond, and where you choose to invest your energy. This doesn't mean you're cold or indifferent. It means you've matured emotionally. You still care, but you don't cling. You still love, but you don't lose yourself. And when a woman senses your energy has shifted, what she feels isn't just a change in the dynamic. It's a reflection of how you now value yourself. Her reaction, whether it's confusion, curiosity, or renewed desire, isn't the point. The point is this: your value doesn't depend on how others see you. It's built on self-respect, discipline, and emotional independence. Your calm, confident detachment sets you apart. It lifts you above the emotional chaos that so many relationships fall into. By living according to Stoic principles, you're not just changing how you relate to others. You're transforming yourself, because detachment isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of wisdom, and that wisdom, built on self-mastery, is what allows you to grow stronger in your purpose, your peace, and your relationships. If this message speaks to you, drop a comment. I am in control of my destiny. And always remember, you were never meant to chase love. You were meant to become the kind of person love is drawn to, not through noise, but through quiet, powerful, unshakable self-respect. Personally, I believe the idea of withdrawing isn't a sign of indifference. It's an invitation to step into a space of inner freedom, where your self-worth no longer depends on anyone's opinions or anyone's reactions. Because when you stop relying on external validation, you don't just find freedom, you become quietly powerful. To someone who doesn't understand it, pulling back might seem like cold silence, but to someone with clarity, It's the sign of a person choosing to grow. Many people overlook the strength in calmness, in not reacting impulsively, in not clinging desperately. But that calm, that ability to stay centered, to not get pulled into emotional games, that's where you truly reclaim your power. I believe this. Anyone, whether a man or any adult, who can separate their emotions from other people's behavior, is someone living with real courage, with real dignity, mystery, confidence, detachment. When these qualities come from genuine inner values, not from performance or facade, that's what makes someone truly admirable, truly magnetic. And what I value most about this mindset is simple. We don't need anyone else to validate our worth. Because when we live in alignment with that worth, we are already enough. And so, we come to the end of this exploration, a journey not away from others, but back to yourself. A place where you're no longer driven by the need for recognition, no longer pulled by the urge to prove your worth. Because you've realized something powerful. When you lose interest, it's not weakness, it's not coldness. It's a decision, a conscious, courageous choice to conserve your energy for what truly deserves it. You stop chasing attention, you stop performing, and you begin the real work, the quiet work of turning inward. You build a solid inner world, not to shut people out, but to finally let yourself in. Your withdrawal creates a silence, and in that silence, others begin to reflect. They question, they confront their own emotions. But make no mistake, this isn't about manipulation. It's about protecting your peace. You stop reacting on impulse. You start choosing to stay grounded, choosing to let go, choosing to grow up. And in that calm, you become even more magnetic. Not because of what you say, but because of what you embody. Confidence, poise, self-possession. You no longer need someone to fill your emptiness, because you've learned how to fill it yourself. Your detachment doesn't make you distant. It makes you worthy of respect, not just in the eyes of others, but in your own. This is no longer an emotional tug-of-war. It's a transformation, a new way of life, rooted in Stoic wisdom, not bound by outside validation, but guided by inner values. You no longer play emotional games. You live with agency, with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing the only thing you truly own is how you respond to the world. And when you choose peace over attention, purpose over validation, you're not just moving on, you're walking the true path of freedom. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the Stoic Station channel, and turn on the notification bell so we can keep walking this journey together towards self-mastery and building healthier, stronger relationships. Because remember, this journey, it begins with you. Until next time, stand firm, think clearly, and always choose peace over chaos. We can't control the world, but we can always control ourselves. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.